employment insurance. Once we have a sense of how many people this new government's going to employ, then there may be a percentage of workers' comp that will fall away. And
Okay,
percentage
because you're saying to now take this and then still work on it to say, well, we really, now let's look at the building department and let's say, okay, we're gonna,
Some of those costs are already.
have already been shrunk out.
Some of those costs reflect personnel rejection.
And I think
that's the only way you could do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
okay, so that's it. But what I was concerned about when looking and trying to go through this November 4th one, discussion, okay, was at the end of the item, you
we're not on
had.
TV yet, are we? Okay.
This one's not going out live.
Huh?
Oh, okay, but I mean, but it's still not, we're not technically
Okay.
TV.
November 4th, okay.
Do you wanna go on TV now, or do you wanna start the meeting now?
Okay, well, welcome everybody here. This is the government consolidated joint study, the town and village government on the fiscal impacts of that. And we have been working for several meetings and we will work for several more. The latest thing that Ross Pollock has gone through is to update information that has provided by the superintendent of highways for the town and his co-part, his
DPW.
DPW person in the village, and they have projected some savings. And I guess my question is, they have projected some $520,000. Am I reading that correct?
yes, that's what.
Now, the question that I have to that, and I really, and I don't know the answer to it, we may probably have to go back to them. Is some of that savings related to, that would impact sewer and water bills, or that portion of the government, or that portion which is not?
I think probably not, because sewer and water in the town is in special districts.
But not in the village?
But not in the village. The village is one district for sewer and water.
I, Dave, when I was in the pre-planning meeting with, Chris and Blue and myself and Sally, we had that meeting, we never touched sewer and water. We never looked at it, we never touched it, we never even asked them to look at it. So I don't think any of these savings have anything to do with sewer and water. I think, one of the things that was very clear, now remember, the town has just gone through scaling back by merging highway
Absolutely.
and building and grounds. We've already made some scale back in our personnel.
And that is somehow
And so
reflected
that
in
is
here.
reflected in there, because what we used was we used the number of the scaled back personnel. DPW, it's believed, and it, has been validated a number of times, that the DPW crew has been working for a long time at sort of bare minimum and doing a phenomenal job with, with very few people. So when we spoke about actually plowing the roads and how you plow the town roads versus how you plow the the village roads, which is done very differently, because the town roads, you're going long distances, but you're going, you're not stopping and starting pretty much. In the village, because you have the curb cuts, the sidewalks, all sorts of stuff, it's a very different process. So ultimately, there wasn't really a belief that we could cut personnel, because they're both pretty much at their limits. But I think where they saw savings was the purchasing of salt, the purchasing of macadam, possibly certain equipment that, they might not have to buy, like a new truck or plan for a new truck, because you now have, like, for example, right now, what's the word? When you hire somebody from the outside, they contract. You contract for, like, for shoveling the sidewalks and whatever. But, which brings in, you're paying for trucks to come in and you're paying for personnel to come in. Because we have those trucks in the town, they don't have to rent those trucks, so there was a savings because they can use the trucks from the town.
Mm-hmm.
There's a savings because when our guys are done plowing our roads, they can then come and help shovel the sidewalks and stuff. So I think they found savings from.
Is that really true? In other words, if I don't want to dispute them, etc. But I mean, so they finished, the town employees, the town has finished plowing the roads, okay, and now they're going to do work within those are people are physically going to do work within the village. And the question comes to me, okay, well, if, I presume that they wouldn't be sitting on their hands out there playing poker, I mean, if they weren't doing that, I mean.
No, what happens is they go back and they wash the trucks.
Well,
and
there's at
they-
some point they have to wash the trucks, anyway, right?
The point is, after our guys plow the snow, they're not, they're, how do I phrase this correctly? When the village gets done plowing the snow and the town gets plowing the snow, then the village first then has to go shovel the sidewalks.
Yes,
The town doesn't.
yep.
Okay, so the town employees don't have as much to do as the village employees have to do, and the village employees contract out to bring in help to shovel the sidewalks and bring in trucks to take the snow away.
Oh, whereas in the town, you push it to the side, you don't have to
The town, you
physically
don't
carry
want,
it
you don't have
away.
Well,
sidewalks.
I know-
Town, you don't have sidewalks.
I know that,
But we
but,
have equipment that the village is leasing, the village is contracting out for equipment that the town has. So once you merge, you don't have to lease that equipment.
Or transfer funds from one to the other
Right,
government, because
exactly.
it's one government.
Exactly, or plus, I think what ended up happening is, I think it was really contractually, when they went through their contractual expenses, that's where they identified all the savings that they found. It wasn't in employees, I know that, and, I think most of it probably was equipment and contractual expenses. And
so,
they spent a lot of, I feel very comfortable, if they identified that savings.
so this is not, since it didn't reduce any, people per
Right.
se, okay?
Because
It
we
is
already did
not
the
a
reduction.
reduction
Ah.
there would be no future reduction in benefits for that class of.
Right, not in this-
those-
not
But
in
that
this-
have you
period.
captured the reduction in benefits for those
Well,
who have been,
probably, but I think we need to go back when we're done. I mean, the town reflects the reduction of the diminished
Well, that's why I
personnel
wanted to take
that
this,
we
this,
have.
in
this,
11?
I
In
want
the
to take
11
this,
But don't forget,
I want
don't
to take
forget.
this budget,
That's
okay?
why. Don't
And that's
forget-
one of the things I want to
And
go back and
compare it.
take a look at back
Don't-
that thing.
Remember, when we were doing some of this, we did make, like, in other words, I said, in the 2011 budget, let's use.
2012 budget,
the-
2013
Let's use the
budget.
2013, the 2012, 2013, because we've already made the reductions.
but the
So-
but the actuals for 11 may not have,
No, the actuals for 11 reflect the 2012, 2013, because we made that decision.
how could it be?
Because we made that choice, I think, when we were going through, that we would reflect the
Well, I had to go
reductions.
back and
Okay,
check that.
I mean, but these monies were spent in 11, so
I
anything that
understand that, but we
changes.
made, yeah, I know that, but when we made the, combined budget, the combined budget, I think reflects our,
Your budget maybe, but I don't
not
think, I
2011,
don't think this.
2011 would show the actual, because we didn't make the cut for
Right.
2012.
And I think there may be some additional savings available in workers' comp,
Well, I
insurance
think
and
what we
so
have to
forth.
do is, when, once we get done with feeling comfortable with this budget,
Mhm.
we should go back and look at what it is comprised of relative to the number of people. Then we can refigure workers' comp, we can refigure, social
Mhm.
security, we can refigure medical benefits, in a sense.
And I'm guessing there's some small savings,
Well,
savings.
yeah, I mean, there should be.
Okay, we still haven't gotten, Ken Berry's, report.
We did get Kevin's report, but,
Well, I got it, but it's not been approved yet, and I said I wouldn't use it until it's approved.
well, it was approved by his committee.
His,
it wa- his
I asked
committee-
him to send it to me after he gave it to him,
His
I
committee,
probably have a copy of that I can send you.
I have it right here.
Okay.
did he
Um,
send it to you?
What
Yes,
he-
he sent us each in the committee. I was serving on that committee. He sent us a copy of the final document.
And the committee approved it?
Approved it.
Yeah, because he handed
I
it
think
out,
unanimously approved it.
he handed it out at the, joint
Joint
town
meeting?
village meeting that we had the other night. So he handed out the report, so it's now final. The question is where we go with, how we take this report and how we
Yes.
choose to,
And none of that is built into this yet.
none of that's built into
Well,
this,
yes, it is. Well,
not to the level
Not,
of,
I mean, not in
not to
terms
the
of the
level
kinds
of-
of things that he wants to standardize and the kinds of things that he's hoping to get out of the collective
well,
bargaining. that he may or may
I
not get.
presume this has not changed I'm talking about the manpower aspect, okay? You know, he reflects on, at least unless the report changed from what I saw, a significant reduction in manpower.
About 8 or 9 positions. I
Eight or
think.
9 positions in the highway.
Highway, I don't.
Well, he has eight.
I think
eight
8 or
full-time
9
positions
generally.
in building and grounds. No, the way I look at it, based on our, okay, they say 8 in buildings and grounds in DPW, 1 in the clerk's office, 3 in the treasurer bookkeeping, 1 full and part-time in the building department.
And you're
But
saying,
see,
you're saying
but
the
the-
conversation about DPW makes you think that the 8 in highway isn't gonna happen, at least not at 8 additional.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Now, again, how you guys based your cuts, I don't know what threshold you were working from. Like, in other words, remember, we've since this year made 4 cuts to building department highway. So were you working before we made the cuts?
I think so.
You know, and so
I think
therefore,
so.
we've
The
already
4 of
made
the
out
8, 4 of the 8 may already be accounted for.
4 of the 8 might have already be
Yeah.
counted for, so we have to figure that out. The other 4, can we really find them? Possibly not. You know, we certainly know from highway we can't, and we certainly know from DPW we can't. Could we possibly from building and grounds? That is a conversation that we could have.
And treasurer as
You know,
well.
and a
in
lot of
terms
that
how you
depends
put
on,
that
and
together.
of course that depends on, I don't know where we're going with the buildings. You know, what, I unfortunately was not at the meeting that you guys had with the
Space.
the space committee that never met.
Right. That was interesting and useful, but I don't think it gave a direct indication as to.
So in
As to
some
these
ways,
numbers.
we might, as a committee, have to sort of grapple with that issue to figure out, you know, what kind of building need we're gonna have, because that might affect how many guys in buildings and grounds you need. Obviously, if you combine all your buildings and you only have 1 building versus 5, 6, 7 scattered throughout the, you know, the town, you need less people to take care of that building.
Yeah, well, it was a question, really the question, I guess, that is kind of open, okay? And we kind of left up open the other day, and there was a question of how much we could utilize out of the the village highway garage for office space. I mean, that was kind of like the open question that we had, okay, and we didn't get anywhere. Thing I hoped that Nancy would be here, and maybe she has some input on that. If not, I guess what I'll have to.
My expectation would be that we probably could move all the town employees into that building, don't you think?
What?
I would believe, I've never been in there, but honestly, we really have very few employees in town hall, especially now that we moved building and grounds out, and we moved them up to highway. You've got the assessor and her assistant, you've got the building inspector, and 3 people in her office. You've got the clerk and her 2 assistants, and then you have myself, Carol, the bookkeeper, payroll. So what do we have, 10 people? I mean, how much space do you need to move 10 people?
Yeah, and of course you still have this area here that where the
And
police used to be.
And also, forget, actually it's only 8 people because you're getting rid of the supervisor and the assistant.
Yeah. Or
Well,
because,
you're merging.
because the mayor is going
Well,
to
you're
have.
merging, so I'm just basically saying
Right.
if you're taking the number of employees at town hall.
Of the combined
Of
coterminous.
the combined coterminous, it's
8
actually
rather than 10 or
10,
12.
right,
Yeah, I think
exactly.
you're right.
Mhm.
And with cubicles and a couple
So
of
really, seriously, right,
walls, you could convert that space to comfortable
Absolutely.
space. I think.
absolutely. And then build a little breezeway between. I mean, I still think it'd be nicer to have somewhat a little bit more modernized facility, but you know, that's down the road. But you still could do like a little breezeway and stuff, and you can have a little center here and be done with it. And then you move DPW, you know, up to the highway, and we all live happily ever after.
Yeah, we talked about that. There's a capability that probably there's a 40 by 60 metal building or that they've purchased that's never been assembled up there.
Oh, at the highway.
At
Yeah,
the
but-
Oh
highway.
yeah, there's plenty of room up at the highway.
And
There's-
it's
yeah.
also, and he's in the process of trying to determine whether he can use one of the old salt sheds
Yeah.
to move his maintenance operation in there, because if he moves his maintenance operation in there,
Yeah.
he therefore can significantly reduce heating costs of the present town
Yeah.
garage, because it then becomes mostly storage except for the small office space,
Right.
and that would make it much less expensive to maintain because he's own, and so that's thing they're working on, and maybe that's
Yeah, well, Chris is already considering that, working on some of that stuff, but, obviously, it would make a lot of sense.
Yes.
okay. The all right.
So anyway, so Kevin, so the human resource things,
So
so I mean, the
okay.
question is gonna be how we want as our committee.
Well, it's just different than the one that he
Slightly, and I don't
slightly
have,
from the review. Okay.
I don't have a copy marked to show the differences, but it's, the basic thrust of it certainly is the same as the version you would have seen.
What about the question of recommending? Was the recommending of hiring any additional people for a specific purpose?
I think there was language in there about hiring part-time or contract until the whole question of merger is resolved,
Oh, I mean, starting to hire part-timers,
so that
And
you're
it's
not
not-
tied to long-term contracts and long-term
insurance,
benefits and so forth, until you know exactly what shape of government you want.
but not
Well,
necessarily.
yes, it is. It created a new position to be filled by an individual with skills in finance, human resources, policy analysis,
Yes, that,
and
yes.
program manager to manage a 16 million annual municipal budget. Creating this position would provide the municipality with a source of information and financial expertise to assist elected officials in their efficient administration of the government. The newly created position would serve as a bridge from one administration to the next, thus eliminating associated with changes in administration. Now this, to me,
I don't think that's a change from the previous draft, but yes.
okay, well, it was in the previous draft, okay,
Yeah.
that's, my thought about this, and I'd like the input, okay, is that this in effect, I feel reduces the responsibility of the lead elected official, the town village mayor supervisor,
Takes too much authority from that person.
Can you, Dave,
yeah?
slowly and articulately read that paragraph?
Okay. Create a new position to be filled by an individual with skills in finance, human resources, policy analysis, and program management to manage a 16 million annual municipal budget. Creating this position would provide the municipality with a source of information and financial experience to assist elected officials and department heads in the efficient administration of government. This newly created position will serve as a bridge from one administration to the next, thus eliminating the inefficiencies associated with changes in administration in election years. Now, I feel that this position basically removes both the present mayor and the present supervisor from the preparation of a budget.
Yeah, that may be what the intention of that was. A CFO or director
I mean,
of finance.
those things were the major
Yeah.
thing, okay? And
Actually, but Dave, if you think about it, the village government already sort of has that policy in place in the sense that they have the treasurer
Yeah.
who prepares the budget and is really the chief fiscal officer to an extent, and then you've got the mayor who does policy, and so it's very different than the town. And so I'm not quite sure, because once you go quote to the village form of government, technically you have that position in a way. And so I understand from a town perspective, I mean, I think one of the greatest problems with town government is we don't have somebody that, you're dependent on a elected official. The town was fortunate with you, the town was fortunate with me, that we both managed the budget really well. But you see the mess that I'm left with right now in terms of what I'm trying to do to rectify, the problems that were left. Nobody should have to deal with that, and the town shouldn't be put in a position where they should be fiscally, in a very risky position. So I even feel from a town perspective, there should be somebody there between myself and the bookkeeper, that is more of a consistent fiscal manager of the budget. So when the supervisors change, the well-being of the fiscal, ground that the
Yeah,
town is
yeah.
on.
Well,
you know,
I
But so I guess in a sense I don't really quite understand, because when we go to a town-wide village concept, you are going to that, you know, the concept of having a treasurer.
And,
I mean, and-
villages do have, and I think even Scarsdale, Coterminous Village, has a village manager, so-called. So,
Yeah. I mean, I would,
but it doesn't mean you have to do it. It may be
Yeah.
permissible, but
no,
not.
I just.
I mean, if it is a manager type position, I'm not
I'm
against it.
not identifying this as a you know, as whether I see that it does, I think, reduce, okay, the oversight responsibility to a certain, well, a major certain ability for the person who is the main elected head of
Yes.
this consumer scrutiny, okay? You know, there is a person that is one level, and I would think that this position, okay, should be extended, okay, to add the question of personnel, records, payment. In other words, those operations, okay, as an overseer, not necessarily do it, okay, because you have that, but this job really takes responsible for all the financial or anything that impacts financial operations of both the village and the town in that particular case, would revise in this person
Rather than the elected official.
rather
Or
in the
shift some of
elected
that.
official. Now, of course, Susan, what do you think of that? In other words, this spells it here, but I think it's really it should be something that's a little larger than
Well, I
that.
think as we start to finalize what we think the government should look like, we can start to define some of these positions a little bit more, because I do think that, as you know, that there are certain things that the village government has that are better. You know, we've got our thing, so we should really, like, you know, to me, in a lot of ways, what I look at as we're working on this, and I actually said this to Jason the other day, talking just about this whole process, that in some ways, I don't think we should also just be looking at it as how do we take the two governments and merge them. I think we should also be looking at it as if we have this opportunity to create this new government. What's the best way to create a government that really works to the best of its ability to serve the people? And so, you know, even though we've got a clerk treasurer, you know, there's a treasurer and she's got two deputies, and we've got a bookkeeper and a payroll person and whatever, you know, we should just sort of say, what kind of financial model do we need to represent this town, and maybe it's a controller and it's an assistant controller, you know, and then maybe you have a village manager or something, I don't know, but you know, I'd rather sort of say, how do we define the government to work the best way versus being tied to the positions that we have and then populate it that way, because I think some kind of manager is appropriate, and I think some kind of controller is appropriate, and I think government run by elected officials, you know, it's great to have people make the policy, but at the end of the day, it's a business with a budget that needs to be managed by professionals, and we get ourselves into too much trouble when, you know, you have nobody running, and you elect somebody who might not even have, you know, they might have great, you know, ideas on the environment, but they don't have a clue how to add 2 + 2, and all of a sudden you're your chief fiscal officer. You know, so
Well,
I sort of think we have to.
That's the point, okay, and I think that, you know, yourself and I think myself and Senator are very much involved in budgets and that type of situation, and the town and the villages, and I think that, in my experience, Tom Nyquist was very much on top of things when he was.
But other
mayor.
other chief executives may not be. is the point.
But that necessarily not everybody, okay, and I think that's very true, okay, but the point that I'm trying to make, and the thing is that this is a position that's going to be fairly well paid, okay, well paid, okay, all right, and
You know, we could actually pay somebody well in town government.
yes, if to get the person you want, you're going to have to pay person of, you know, skills.
I agree.
This, okay, and since that you're gonna pay this person to do a lot of that thing,
Should we
so
define-
that elected position, okay? That elected position, call it mayor, supervisor, whatever it is gonna receive a reduction in salary. That's what I'm saying.
I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, depending on how you define that position or how you define the support staff in, you know, in the mayor supervisor's office, and then, you know, what are you leaving for the mayor supervisor to do? You define their salary based on that. I don't disagree.
Okay, so I think that we have to, if we're going to,
Yeah,
I think the situation, I would like to, okay, then with that thought, okay, and I see, Ari, you've been very quiet. Which, I think you nodded at one point in the discussion.
Taking it all in, but
What?
if you look at any business that's run well, there's always a separation, which is why you have chief financial officers, which is why you have controllers, and they're separated from the chief executive officer, primarily because you need certain people to concentrate on certain things. People are elected by popularity, not by ability to do things. When you're dealing with a budget of $17, $18 million, you need somebody who can sit there through different terms, by contract, and says, you'll be an outside or however you wanna do it, but he's there regardless of who's
He should.
in.
He
So-
should.
he or she.
I'm sorry, from the old school member I grew up, he was used for both. And I apologize to anybody who takes offense, but that's.
Well, I
just
think, I
my
guess the
age.
question is then, I guess from this committee, okay, we support that, okay, and, I will agree to take a look at this in regards to what this does financially, but I think what it does financially, okay, if you decide that it's necessary, and I think we all agree it's necessary, what it's going to do, it's going to increase the budget in that particular area.
yes,
Yeah.
and
So-
you may be able to
well,
reduce.
this is
But
this
What?
is
may, you will also, using myself as an example, if you will, have the possibility of saving tremendous amounts of money, because you now have somebody dedicated
To looking
to
at the
looking
money.
at money and looking at figures and see, you know, for myself, I saved over $1 million when they hired me, because the big shots, the bosses, they were out doing the selling, raising the money, going to things. The advantage of having somebody who says nothing from numbers, as Susan can testify, she put somebody doing numbers on the builders, right, and getting their money. Look how much money that got us back. And that's because there was somebody whose only job was to look at the numbers, see what's wrong. I mean, you know, when I was going through my police budgets and stuff, and I told Tony, I found mistakes where they just didn't catch them because nobody, you know, it was commonplace. Okay, we just keep doing, because nobody had the time. And you certainly can't expect the political people to have the time. They're in a different world, if you will. And I think it's, I don't think it's an expense per se. I don't think any controller or CFO worth their money is gonna be an expense. My department's
Net,
an
they
expense.
save you money.
Yeah, that's,
But I
that's
don't
what
think-
they can save if they do their job.
All right, you may do that, but I don't think we could identify,
Yeah.
you know, I think we've squeezed a lot of stuff out already, and I just don't think that, you know,
But that's
No, he's
you
talking-
don't know.
No,
You
no,
don't know, right.
you're-
Yeah,
no, you're
that's
just
why you
saying-
can't
you're
build it
saying,
in.
You're saying not necessarily that we can squeeze money out of here because we're bringing in a CFO. You're saying by virtue of bringing in a CFO, we will see savings as we move forward in this government because you won't have mistakes and wasted money and all the problems that we have seen through the years in government.
Absolutely.
and it's a consistency, okay, that is very important. And
I
it was
mean,
been very obvious to me, and it was a very simple situation, I think that, maybe the town got out of the thing, is the question is, when do you close vouchers, okay, at the end of the year, okay?
When you, I'm sorry.
When do you,
Close vouchers.
vouchers at the end of the year, I had a very strict policy, they were closed, period. Okay, if you hadn't spent the voucher was not spent by December 31st, okay, and the stuff hadn't been received, but so anything coming in there, you had to get a new voucher. I'm sorry, but everything else was omitted, and people were responsible to get any billings on those vouchers in by a reasonable time. Now, I think that Susan has done that this year, but I don't think it was done previous years.
Oh, no, we were closing, we were getting expenses in April, May that were supposed to be billed back to the year before.
Calendar
You
year
know, oh
prior.
my God, forget
You
it.
know,
What?
when Randall and I were going through our budget, the police budget, Susan's budget, just ours, that affects our department. We found, and we told to the town, this goes before Susan came, we found over $40,000 worth of errors in the medical. We brought it to their attention, to the town's attention, they made the changes. There's a lot of this that goes on because you're dealing in such massive, that's why I'm saying, I'm not saying it's gonna save tremendous amounts of money, but I've always looked at, you know, not accounting staff, but somebody who takes the position of a chief financial officer or a budget preparer, they're supposed to, at least in my businesses, they're supposed to pay for themselves. If they're not paying for themselves, then you don't need them. You don't need an additional expense, but you
Yep,
need,
that-
because
yep.
that's their job.
Yep. But that's,
anyway-
I presume you're going to put, as soon as you get this budget out of the way, okay, let it all the vendors and all the people
Oh,
say,
yeah,
we're
Yeah.
closing at the end of the year this
Absolutely.
year, if you haven't got your,
yeah,
if the bill is not received by the
yeah,
15th
yes,
of January, don't expect to get paid.
I will, promise.
Okay. No, but I mean, that causes you
I
a
agree,
tremendous
I agree.
amount of
I
problems.
agree, but going back to this for a second, I guess I see in a sense when we were talking earlier about taking the 2011 village town and then we put together a merged budget to say this is what you would have saved if we were operating as one government.
That's the
And then when I was
theory.
talking about moving forward to projecting the 2015, this is where one would say that the purpose of doing that projection budget is to say, okay, now we know what we would have saved, now how do we create this new government and what does it look like? And that's when we sit there and we say, you know,
Yeah.
we might have this position. But when we create this position, Dave, we might then say, we don't need two clerk right now, our budget is developed on probably a bookkeeper, a treasurer, a clerk treasurer, 2 deputies, a bookkeeper, and a treasurer, 2 deputies, and a bookkeeper, probably 4 people. We said our payroll person would probably be retired by then, and the village does paychecks, so we didn't carry that position over.
Mhm.
But we've got 4 that we're carrying over. When we start to sort of look and say, well, we might want this kind of position, then we might say, well, we don't need those 4 positions, we're gonna redefine those
Yeah.
positions.
That's the
This
kind
is
of
gonna-
adjustment that I was talking about, which is not strictly a percentage.
Right, exactly. So then we'll be looking to pay this person this, so we'll be paying these people for that, and we can reduce the salary of supervisors, potential salary, or we could do this, or we could do that. So that's the kind of changes and adjustments that we start to.
Beyond the base of savings
Okay.
of one.
Okay, so we have to get
Whatever.
to a point where, hopefully sooner than later, we start to feel comfortable with the numbers that we've identified. You know, go back through them maybe very quickly to sort of just go back on our assumptions and see if we still agree with them. Make whatever tweaking with the, you know, state retirement and all that kind of stuff and workers' comp to get the numbers a little bit more realistic.
Yes.
And then take that budget and say, okay, we've identified $1.5 million if we were 2 governments. Now let's redefine what a government would look like if we were working as one government, and then take it to the next step.
And this becomes a useful database
Right.
or
Right. Well, you
platform
need, well,
to
well, I mean,
build
first of
from.
all, you need this to basically, because what we have to do now, once we confirm this, is that we still have to go back to what you were talking about, Ira, at the very beginning, is the implications to the town and the village, and the cost, you know, the cost of, this combined government to the town outside the village and to the village residents, and how it impacts them, and look at those numbers,
That's,
and then, but still, I mean, I think that's somewhat wiped away with $1 million, but we can lay that in, but we still have to prove
we
it.
still have, yeah,
We have to prove it.
I mean, everybody says that, and I don't deny it,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Well, but because, the reason why I say it is because I think you could take the allocation, and then if you need to offset the increase to the town outside the village, you can use that money to
yes,
offset.
no, I
So-
realize,
so- so that's why I
that was my
think-
whole thinking,
so why, yeah.
that keeps everything on a par, but
Right.
that's what you have to see.
Right,
You
yeah.
can't just say.
no, I
Yeah.
know, but I'm just saying, I feel more comfortable now that we, you know,
and
have the governor signed off on our bill.
Yeah,
And,
really.
and in addition to the 1.38 million savings identified here, the merger would produce, we think, 257,845 more revenue.
Uh-huh.
So in effect, you could add that to this number.
What did that revenue increase come from?
Making Moriello pay for itself, and let's see what else.
Well, that's not a fair, that's not a fair, if, we could do that now if we were willing to do that.
Yes,
And so-
gross utilities tax,
Okay, but let's just go back to Moriel Pool, because I really feel if you put the $60,000 in as revenue,
Mhm.
we could do that now if we wanted to. And right now, there isn't a willingness of the two boards to do that because the cost implication to the cost for the residents to go to Memorial Land Pool. So if the village board isn't willing to do it now, I would not put that in as revenue for the future, for a future board. That'll be done because of a policy that the boards are willing to do, not because of consolidation. So I really would feel uncomfortable keeping that one in.
I
Sally,
agree with that.
okay.
I agree with that. I mean, Sally thinks, well, we should do that, okay? But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this isn't a monarchy, it's a
Well,
situation.
anyway, but
that
all I
but
can
the point
say,
is
I can
that-
say is we discussed it at the last board meeting, joint town village board meeting, and there was an agreement to do that. So if there was an agreement that
Yeah,
night,
I was
I
about
would
to say.
feel very uncomfortable saying, oh, when we merge it, all of a sudden there'll be agreement. So
What would-
Is there
But
not a
the-
requirement that it be run at break even? That's what somebody
No,
told me.
no.
that I know of.
No reason.
But
for
if it
that.
is, then I
So-
can
so
make it
you-
break even for 2011 too. That's why I'm just saying that's a policy. That's not something that's a benefit of the merger.
Okay, well,
So-
then you're looking at a revenue enhancement quite a bit less than that, obviously.
Yeah.
Well,
but
what-
it was
what
only
other
about
revenue
60 it was only
enhancements
about
are
60 It should
there?
only be 60,000, which is it's about $60,000 loss that we run the pool at. So
No,
Now-
she identified a loss of 177. If you add up all the contractors and you add up all the lifeguards and you add up all of the equipment and so forth.
But
she-
you have to, then you have to take, that's the expenses, but then you have to subtract the revenue that we bring in.
Right, and that's
And the
what
revenue-
that's what she alleges, or
No,
the
the
deputy
loss-
mayor alleges.
The loss is $60,000.
She says 177.
Well, that's not a correct number.
Okay. She identifies the total cost as 319. 319,000 to run the pool.
It's about
Um,
a six, no, that's not a correct number.
But then the other thing that she does is that she doubles the gross utilities tax, which is available to the village, and of course, if the entire community is
Yeah,
a village,
I
then
guess that's
that's her
real.
that's her thinking on that one.
Okay, and what other ones are there?
$120 for clerk and treasury fees. That's very
Uh-huh.
minor. 15,000 for village fees. She feels all village.
Well, is this a question where people would have to go out and ask for permits
I think so.
for garbage collection and that type of thing?
I think more in terms of building inspection fees and certificates of occupancy, but she identifies 15,000 in that category. I guess those are the only ones that I've raised now. Everything we've got. So if we take away the 177, we're talking about a revenue enhancement more like $80,000. But it's on the
Mhm.
positive side at
Yeah.
any rate.
So it's a good thing Carol didn't print out those things anyway.
Well, it would be useful. I'm reading it from the computer. It'd be useful to have it.
No, I know, but you can print them out now, taking that revenue out.
Yeah, that's true. You can revise it further. I just want to say something about the treasury point. The village treasurer has, back in the time when I was on the board, and I think continually, done a monthly summary of where the budget stands. The village has allocated X dollars for
Yeah,
this,
but so
this
does the
purpose.
town.
That's an extremely useful. I mean, there's an example where a financial professional is helping the elected officials
Mhm.
do the work.
But that's the same thing in the town, that we get, the bookkeeper gives us
A
a
monthly
monthly
where
report
you
that
stand
it
versus
shows,
what you- yeah.
what was allocated, what was spent year to date, what is encumbered, what's not encumbered,
Mhm.
what percentage is spent, what you have remaining.
Does that include, that report include what vouchers outstanding?
Well, it doesn't include it, it includes it in terms of what's encumbered, but what hasn't, so you have what was spent year to date, what was
Yeah.
spent last year, what was spent year to date, what's encumbered, what's unencumbered, and what's remaining. So what's encumbered would probably be the vouchers that, haven't been
But it-
processed, but they're encumbered, that
But,
money's
but I never
encumbered.
saw it broken out by voucher number or by that
Not,
level of
not
detail.
in the monthly report.
No,
No, no.
By department, right?
yeah, by department
Exactly.
usually, or by line item in the.
Well, it's a budget, it's like similar to the budget, but it's similar to the budget, but it's, the percentages and the numbers, but, you don't get,
Mhm.
if you ask for a breakout by department, you would get the voucher stuff, but that's not what we get in that monthly
In the
report.
packet. Right. But that's certainly something that new position, if we're considering a new position, should be expected to provide. It's very useful.
Okay, so the question, all right, so So, okay, so we have to take out that Royal Park thing, okay?
Mhm.
And I will go back, I will go through between now and next week's meeting, a review of the 2012-13 proposed budget and see if there, if looking at it, see if there's anything significantly that we should change. In looking at this, in regards, okay, and trying to ask the situation, we knocked off $83,000 from budget, and I don't really understand that.
From budget.
Yeah,
Which
it's
line?
A13401.
I, yeah, I think that would have been, that the town budget would be handled now by the treasurer's office. So the town expenditure of 83,000 was negated, and we expected the treasurer's budget to increase by 74,000.
Oh, okay, all right. I see. In other words, so this is a
It's
joint
in effect a
between those
merger
two,
of town
okay.
budget and village treasurer.
Okay.
No, it's actually interesting, Dave, if you look over here.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to go back, go through this
I
thing
was
with
saying to Dave, if you actually
questions
look
to see
over
that.
where it says treasurer, we do have a CFO,
Yes.
sort of built in.
Oh, yeah, no.
But I mean, that was conceptual, again, if.
No,
if
I'm
this-
just saying
if
that-
this
I'm just saying
committee
that
likes it, then.
No, I know, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it was
It's
funny. 'cause
already been thought about.
It's already been thought about,
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Now, the other big, of course, is the question of, and I guess I could ask Susan, is there any thought at the present time in the town to hire a town attorney as a salary
Retainer?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it, but it's not like we couldn't consider it. I guess the difficulty for the moment would be the actual town attorney, we haven't been using an incredible amount, where the attorney fees have been coming in is more from environmental stuff, whether it was wetlands or fracking or, some other things. I mean, I think you've seen in the past, like when they did last year the wetlands law, they did the floodplain law.
And those are not by,
Those
retainer, those are by,
Right,
By hour.
but simultaneously.
What about a
it's-
retainer per se for an engineer? Is that being considered or not?
The interesting thing is if you actually look at the engineer's fees, most of those fees are really in planning and zoning. They're not as much in the town line itself.
would most of
But,
them be
we could-
recouped from
Well, the planning and zoning,
developers
the
and-
planning and zoning is
Yeah.
recouped,
Right.
which is why my town budget this year, if you look at the B fund, it's like half the cost, because in the past, they put in fees for the engineer and fees for the lawyer, which were, that's not money,
It's more like escrow than it
that's
is
exactly,
budget.
that's exactly right, it was escrow money, so they
Yeah.
were raising taxes to account for money that was escrow money, which is why our B fund balance is extraordinarily high. Because they've been raising taxes for a long time, on money
Mhm.
that it was escrow money that should have never been taxed for
Mhm.
and stuff, so.
The other thing I got the question here, as I go back, is I just try to run through these things and ask big questions. A71804, Memorial contractual, we knocked off $146,000, and I don't know why.
71804.
71804.
I don't see that in mine.
Moriello contractual,
Went from 169,000. It's all of a town. It's all a taking a correction. It's all a town expense, and you knock it down to 22,500.
wait a second, TV actual combined is the,
Oh. 71804. Yeah, I assume that was lifeguards?
yeah, but that wouldn't, if we.
Well,
merged-
come on, you got lifeguards out there. Come on.
wait a second, let me
Well, they
just-
do have a huge list of lifeguards, but
No, but see again, it has nothing
Very
to do, it has nothing to do with, merging. The pools run, okay, let me just look for a second.
All town.
Yeah, I'm looking 2011 if merged. don't know why that, what the thought was. I mean, the pool is run with the amount of lifeguards that are needed to
Absolutely.
cover the amount of time the pool's open,
Yes?
Yeah.
and that's it. It's
And-
not,
and-
and if
and-
you merge, I
and
mean,
you
right now
ex-
the town and the village,
You explained why there's a large list to guarantee there would be somebody there at any point that you needed somebody
well, I
there.
don't know if there's that much large of a list. I mean,
30
remember,
or 40, I think we saw.
140, you can.
no, there's not 140 kids.
No.
It went from,
It's a
it
big
went
list,
from
but
20,
I
the
mean,
town
they make
last,
up- yeah, if you look at the salaries, one will get $160 for the year.
Yes.
It's to make sure,
Yeah,
like
well-
we do, that you have the part-timers.
Well, it's because it's 7 days a
But it's
week,
not-
and
yeah.
it's 7 days a
Yeah.
week, and it's open in the morning, you
Yeah.
know, then through the evening, so you probably have a bunch of kids on
To
different shifts.
guarantee coverage.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah, the
But-
pool,
but-
the pool had 47 employees.
47,
when
that was, yeah.
but, I
But
mean,
that's mostly part-timers, you had
Yeah.
one or two
But
regulars.
again, the town and the village own it together, the town operates it. It doesn't matter if we're one government or 15 governments, that's what it costs to run the pool. So the question is, if there was some cost in there, Dave, and I'd have to go back and, look at the worksheets, that maybe there was a cost in there that was a possible one-time cost for buying something or doing something that we felt that we could take out. It's the only thing I could think of.
But if you look at those three lines, 71,802, 71,801, and 71,804, they are combined to about $320,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, that's why when Sally was talking about raising revenue to cover the cost,
Mm-hmm.
she was talking about the 177 increase, not a 60,000 increase.
No,
But there may be, maybe something, maybe the information is.
This
well,
is- I don't know what,
it's contractual, that,
I don't know what this
Are our part-timers considered contractual?
yeah, I was just about to say, I don't know. I
that's
never-
not contractual.
I didn't-
Did we do something back in 2011, Major, in the,
Maybe
I didn't-
a
I
new
didn't-
liner or something? Was the pool liner replaced?
I did not bring, yes, and, there was some stuff.
Maybe that was.
I didn't bring the worksheets to go back and look.
Maybe this year is not typical for the cost of
I
Moriello.
would suspect Moriel contractual is probably personal services.
well, no,
Well,
it says,
but for
it says
personal
lifeguards
services-
up above, okay,
131,000
131,000 for
yeah.
lifeguards.
where do
Equipment,
you see lifeguards?
19,000, and,
Where does-
71,801. A71,801. Special recreation
That's
tax.
special recreation tax, I don't know what that,
Moriel,
pool.
PS, Moriel Personal Services.
Well, I don't have the worksheet, I didn't bring the budget worksheet, so
why
I
wouldn't I find it in here? How do I find it in here?
In 2011, the pool labor,
Yeah.
$111,687.
71,804.
That was the total labor paid.
And that would be lifeguard labor,
That would be lifeguard labor.
not
plus-
construction labor or
No,
something.
but this is only salaries plus, it's all part-time of the 47, according to what they had. One person was full-time, so he gets a full load.
Yes.
You know, this gets
Everybody
confusing
else
because
is
they,
part-time
the
with
way
no
they,
benefits,
let me just,
Uh-huh.
except for the FICA Medicare, which ran about $9,000.
Which almost every employee has to.
Well, you have to do that,
Yeah.
that's, but, you know, that's our share, but it's not the 62% that a full-time employee gets.
Got it.
equipment, blah, blah, blah.
62%. My God, that's a heavy load in expenditure.
So what
I
did
thought it
is-
was 40 some odd.
So point one would
The,
be probably personal services, I
overall,
would suspect. So
taking
we're at
the total
120,
benefits paid
Mm-hmm.
over the total
Mhm.
salary paid, right?
Memorial, special,
comes
up
to-
to about 1/3, so that looks like,
58.93%.
Yeah.
that looks
But-
about like personal
That's
services.
inclpeople that
Then
don't get it. When you take
0.2
the
is
people that
equipment,
don't
right?
get it out of it,
That's
So there's
huge.
only,
Huge.
there's like
Huge.
nothing, like only
full-time people, it
900,
comes to 62
for
to
equipment.
63%.
Grief.
Isn't it?
That's amazing.
there's like
Which I
organic
had, I had to do
equipment
another
there, and then
calculation,
point
because
four,
I wanted to know, so what
would
I did
be-
is like, you take the police and the pension, you
0.4
take the
would be
police pension
contractual,
out, you take the other pension
which
out.
here is
you-
around
you-
50.
You multiply the police pension by the
22.
police salary.
Here it
Here's
is,
what's
22,
police,
right, here's the estimate, 22
pension
right there.
figures,
uh-huh.
and then you
Therefore
change
it came from.
the 14% overall.
Okay,
to
and I don't know why
17%.
169, I don't know what this
Okay,
169.
all right, okay, all
That,
right.
that's as much of a burden,
I don't know,
I think,
I'd have
as the pension
Go
itself.
look at last
Okay,
year, I
all
got
right,
this copy,
okay.
yeah.
Susan just
All right.
said that the pension.
We got the answer,
This is
okay,
basically-
2013 budget is
657.
22,000.
Then maybe that's why.
That's
Yeah,
why we put
Yeah,
that in.
that's
So,
why
so
that's
there's
just
gotta be,
there.
there's gotta be something crazy about the 169, 153, because Dave and I are looking, And even 2012 was 26,000 for equipment, for contractual, 22,000 for contractual. They only spent 7,000 as of whatever. So that
Yeah.
169, there's got to be something very funky about that number.
May even be an incorrect number, I don't know where,
I
but,
think it is. I'll go back and check
Well,
it.
well, that's not a problem. They will
Yeah.
be, yeah, well,
But I'll go check it.
Yep.
yeah, okay. Now, we had a question in planning and the wetland suit, okay? Are we gonna consider that, when we redo, cause that the wetland suit is gonna be, out of here, so that we talk about,
I mean, I think I think
So
those
that's-
one-time things
okay,
should not be looked at as if the
Okay.
two governments combined. You know, I mean,
unless we had something particular in mind
All
that
right,
we
okay.
saw coming down the
well, I'm
road.
just saying that I think the wetlands lawsuit. You know, it's like.
Finito?
Well, it's not a matter of whether it's done or not. I don't know if it's done or not. The point
Mhm.
is the cost of doing it.
Well, you would
Is-
have to, you'd
is
have to
the-
budget it in some way if you expected a cost.
We're not budgeting for 2015 right now for a wetlands law. And I
Mhm.
think the point that David's trying to make is because wetlands law is not a typical cost of doing business, so therefore should that be an expense we should really be looking at as we look at this budget? I think that's what
so,
David's
Jay,
asking.
we're looking at comparative, we're looking at the savings, okay, and so we're trying to do, okay, you realize what, I guess what we have to do is that we've gotta look at,
I think what
eventually, what we've got, and I'm just trying to put together, I'm trying to think as to what my proposal would be for the thing, so try to take this and say, okay, this would be a town budget for 2015 and a village budget for 2015, okay? But if it would be combined, it would be, you know, taken into this consideration, okay, of reduction, and it's gonna come, you're not gonna see 1.2 million dollars worth of savings, okay, but you're gonna see,
I think what maybe if I think
it's gonna be something less than that, definitely, because of some of the things that the town is already doing.
I mean, I think if you created a
Mhm.
2015 budget, and like in other words, I think what would be fair to say is, what would be the cost of a municipal attorney for the town and the village for this new government,
Mhm.
for the cost of doing everyday type of municipal work, and then you say, look, the town and village of New Paltz are never not going to be doing, for better or for worse, there's going to always be some kind of environmental work that's being done in this community.
Or controversy or something.
Right, so you could say, well, so put like $25,000 aside for legal fees for special projects relative to the
Mhm.
community, which you know you're always gonna have, whether it's fracking,
Yes,
wetlands,
that's what I was trying to say before.
however you want or whatever, there's always gonna be
You can't
something.
make it zero, you can't make it zero
That's different,
because.
that's different than a municipal lawyer.
Yeah,
And a municipal lawyer, like the village has a municipal lawyer on retainer. So I don't know what they pay for it, but so you have your municipal lawyer on retainer, and then you have your extra, lawyer fees for special projects,
mhm.
and that's how you develop,
This is also an extraordinary expense, which usually gets footnoted as something that's not common.
right.
Number one, and number two, you look at 3 years down the road, I know the town board said we're gonna go forward with it, but, you don't put in something 3 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, the way I look at it.
I agree.
Well, okay, I was
Municipal
trying
lawyer
to
for
get
those
together,
about
I'm
54,
trying to make sense of this
In
thing,
11.
because
Yeah. So I think, did we put in about
so-
60,000 for the combined
I think,
attorney?
we was hired
thought about that.
95,000.
Oh, we thought about that one.
We 75 retainer plus appearances coming to 95,000.
But it was the 75 for the municipal attorney,
Yes,
and then so we probably then came up
and
with the
then-
other 25.
and
for the other-
20
So we
for
actually,
whatever else.
okay,
Yeah,
So really-
that's the way that was.
so we already thought
See,
about it.
so when you talk about reducing on the, that, planning figure, it's A8201, $186,000, well,
Which number are you looking at, Dave?
A
Oh, 80201?
80201, which we're looking at reduction of $187,000
Well, the reason why we did-
dollars. Now, the point is that,
Well, I didn't reduce that because of the wetlands lawsuit. I reduced that.
Maybe the note's wrong.
The note is wrong. The note is wrong. Take that out. The reason for that reduction went back to, remember when I just said that to you? If you,
Yeah, I understand that.
if you
Okay.
look at the beef, if you look at the, beef fund,
Well, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
the
not
escrow point?
because that's what I just said to you, that
Yeah.
remember, so in other words,
I understand that, Susan, okay, but the point that I'm trying to make, et cetera, that we have to take a look careful at that,
Mm-hmm.
and so that when you start pulling some of this down, and then
Mhm.
you say, this would be the town, and this would be the village, and this would be the combined, then you're not gonna see $1.2 million difference between the two of them. On the savings.
You think
point.
the savings is optimistic still?
The optimistic is savings, because you're already adjusting for some of that in the process, okay? That's what I'm saying. Now, the thing,
right?
A 81601, shows a reduction of $25,000, and that's because the village, the town receives money from the village for garbage they bring out, right? Am I right in that or not?
Say that again, that the town receives money from the village?
Village, when they bring out garbage?
I guess, you know what, I have
To the
to,
landfill.
yeah,
Well, the village spent 63,749 in that category. Maybe that was to the town?
I don't know if it's,
Or some
exactly,
part
I
of
don't know
it
if
was
it's
to
to
the
the town or if it's to the, RRA.
Ah,
What?
I don't know if that goes to the town or the RRA, the money from the village, because I don't think we have that kind of revenue coming in.
so it could be
As a-
it could be a dumping fee to the county, not a
Right,
tipping fee to the county, not a,
Right.
yeah.
right.
Well, I just trying, trying to, is that something that, it's not something that, it isn't something that, Blue and Chris, took, when they talked about the savings, I take it, so.
Yes,
No.
that's what Sally said. Sally said that after the conversation that you had with Blue and Chris, she, it was felt that 25,000 more could be taken out
Of landfill?
of the refuse and garbage line.
Is that part of,
I
is
thought I
that part of the $520,000 merging? That's the question, that's the net was.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure. No, if it's there as a separate line, we have a line called DPW. So
Yes.
no, that's not part of the 520.
Okay, fine, all right, okay, all right.
But I understand your point.
I don't, I think that,
But I think Dave,
that's very high, but I think, Chris, that's what they say, it's just, I think it's very high.
well, we can ask them to give us, their worksheets of how they came up with that number, if you know,
Mm.
in order for you to, feel more comfortable. But I think they have the DPW line created for this analysis includes the following New York codes,
Yeah.
which are considered to be highway or building grounds related by both town and village. So these are all the lines they looked at,
And those are they've been pulled out of from earlier. In other words, they're not duplicated.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can ask Chris before the next meeting, Dave.
Yeah,
So what-
I'd
what-
like a little,
you know, with that,
you basically, you're taking off the 25%
Yeah.
without taking any manpower out.
Or I can have Chris,
Yeah,
I'll,
like,
give me
like to understand it, okay, cause.
like maybe maybe this Thursday or something,
Okay.
come down, and I'll have Chris come down and we can go over the stuff.
Yeah, all right.
And they were quite
Yeah.
sure that no manpower was required to
Yeah.
be cut.
No, I feel pretty comfortable that, we had a long talk with them, so when they went back to do their stuff, I'm pretty sure they knew exactly what they were doing, and if they identified those kinds of savings, I felt pretty comfortable. But I don't blame you, Dave, for wanting to know exactly what,
Yeah, it's
But
just,
Dave-
it's
but Dave
just,
is
it's
what-
just, it's
Yeah.
just 20% reduction and without manpower reductions,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And the question that may be is that they did that as part of the 4 people that you've already reduced, okay? That's, we have to know that,
Mhm.
okay? You're looking at figures ahead, okay,
I
as to what
suspect
2050.
they didn't, but, yeah,
What?
I suspect they didn't, but we'll double check that.
Okay, all right, okay, yeah.
But I do agree with Dave in terms of your premise of going back to like the planning board, where
Planning board or the planning line and
the
the,
planning line at 80201,
yeah.
where we're showing a savings of $186,000, but it's really because I've corrected what I believed was an inequity of how they were billing,
Yes.
and in a sense, so it's like in a way, if the two of us merged, Actually, if you look at the village actual, which makes sense, if you look at the village actual and then you look at the town, the
Yes.
line number, they make sense now, 25 and 50 versus 25 and 211,000.
Yeah, yeah.
But in a way, because I've corrected what I thought was inequity, if I hadn't done that, it wouldn't be a savings. We wouldn't be showing
It's
the same.
extraordinary income,
We-
say
we-
we have extraordinary
Yeah,
expense.
but then it would come in as revenue and stuff, but still, it's,
But still,
so
it's
it is-
more
No,
than ideal.
it's hard in a way to distinguish what has been a correct reassignment of items versus what is actually.
but I mean, I'm
But in
just,
terms of what 11 was spent, what was spent in 11,
right,
it's reasonable to assume, based on your new treatment of this, that 186 would not be reported as expense.
right. But I'm just saying, David's right in the sense that we're showing 185,000 savings by combining the town and the village if they were merged.
Well, and in the process, you correct this, everything that should be escrowed would be escrowed, and
Mhm.
therefore that, yeah.
Yeah, but Dave's right in the sense it's not necessarily 185,000 of savings.
Well, it's savings over what was actually spent in 11,
Mhm.
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, with those, what I'd like to try to do is to now, understanding some of this stuff, we're gonna go back and with the tentative
He's taking
budget.
everything, he's taking my report, my human resource report, he took my budget. Do you want my sweater?
Careful now, careful now. Let's keep this on the up and up here.
Yeah, they always have been.
Okay.
telling you.
Would you really need these back?
What?
You need these back in, so I'll stop at town hall tomorrow and get them.
You could take that and I'll get, I'm sure, Kevin emailed the government efficiency.
To the members of the board, but I'll.
But I didn't
I'll
get
say-
it.
Do you have, no, I know, because you weren't
On that committee.
Do you have it here, do you have it here?
Yeah, probably.
Can you send your
Sure,
copy
to the two of you, or I
to
will-
all
Yeah.
of us?
Okay,
Oh,
you can keep
sorry.
it. Send it to me and you can, send it to me, okay?
and you'll forward it around?
And I'll forward it to the rest of the members.
Okay.
And I won't send Susan one, but I'll,
No, you can take this if you want,
thank you.
and then I'll put one out tomorrow when he sends it
Okay,
to
all
me.
right, okay, fine. Hey,
Okay,
save me
I'll send,
paper.
I'll save you
me
the paper.
All right. Okay, I got a note back from Jean Colucci, said her committee would have her report ready, but it will not be ready till the end of the month. Which is.
End of November.
End of November, okay, all right. So, my thought is that I will try to put some comments and things and go through and put a
So,
2014, 2015
at what
combined
point,
budget and not combined budget and see what happens.
at what point do you think that we'll feel comfortable as a committee with these numbers?
I wish Nancy were here, and she had them and she was looking at them. Maybe another one or two iterations should take care of it.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was waiting to, when I saw the whole ball of wax, so it all sits in my head without all the changes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like I got something today I can't open, so,
So you can't open it.
no.
I mean, I'm.
Would
so-
Excel 2003 be better for you?
Excel is fine, but this didn't come in Excel, this came in, internet.
For me?
It was from somebody, it said budget,
Oh.
and I couldn't open it because I don't have one of these big fancy computers. I got an older computer, and I'm not about to go out and spend $600 for a program just to open up something.
I can send it in.
No, Excel is fine, I get Excel is fine, I work.
Yeah,
I
but there are
have
lots of flavors of Excel. This one may
I've got the newest version,
But,
then this should open.
but the only
but
thing
it
that
wasn't an
is,
Excel file.
well, let me just ask
Oh.
you a question,
In other
guys.
words, yeah.
Whatever you sent was probably this, that I
Yes.
printed out and brought tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm just
So-
saying, it had something to do with income.
Income, revenue and expenses.
I'd have to look, I just, I
If
figured it would be here
If it came
tonight.
today, it was
Yeah.
probably this, and we printed this out.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I couldn't,
I mean, I'm just asking
but no,
because,
Excel I get, and then I convert it into non-program.
because what I'd like to try to do is, Frank Morrow, who's from the Fiscal Policy Institute, who's a very, 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 very well-respected fiscal guru. At some point when we feel pretty confident with these numbers, I'm gonna ask him to take a look at this
Mhm.
to sort of give us an outside perspective, to sort of get like possibly
I just,
So-
yeah, may I ask one question?
No.
Just, thank you. That's okay. I'm just curious, and I may have missed it and just doing something do you come up with saving $1 million in police personnel?
What?
How do you come up with saving $1 million in police personnel?
Without personnel? Without?
It
So
says
where do you see that?
2012 actuals show $1 million can be saved.
I don't think it's probably under
Oh.
police.
Your current, I think Sally said that that was based upon how the 2012 budget was being spent by the town.
No, she's not saying, 2012 actual show $1 million to be saved. That's not relative to the police budget.
It's on that line which says.
That's
that-
what she, that's what she thought.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question, Susan, because it confuses me.
She said that even though a certain amount was budgeted, quite a bit less than that has been spent to date in 2012. Is that right? I don't know, that's why.
That's probably just because the year hasn't been spent. So
Yeah,
therefore, you can't look at what's been spent up until now in 2012, when what she probably looked at was only 7 months or 8 months or 9 months of spending, okay? Because you still have, you know,
But
5
she-
more months, which could be $1 million worth of personal services.
But I think she was saying there was $1 million saved versus what should have been spent by that 7-month point and what had been
You
spent.
can't do that because
Is that not correct?
Just completely
Because
cross that out.
a lot of our budget isn't spent until December.
Of course, by the way, that note does not, I mean, the number there
It
does
was
not
just a
reflect that.
note, and I'm sitting there and
Yeah.
I'm saying, whoa, what did I miss?
That was her thought
Yeah,
as
but
to
I'm
going
saying
to the future.
a
It
lot of the
doesn't
police
apply
budget
the
isn't
number.
spent until the end of the year. And this is all personnel, so.
November and December are heavy spend months, is
Yeah,
that what you're
because a
saying?
lot of the contracts in the contract area are
That may be,
paid then.
that may be the.
Plus, she's got it in the personnel line,
Mhm.
and, you know, you can't play with the personnel line what's up to here because
It's contractual.
it's contractual, and up to that point, we may have had $100,000 in overtime. We're coming into the school season,
Sure. So
when
you have
we
more.
should do, and my overtime can go up to 200. That's not where it
But-
is.
but
I wish you were here to explain it. I'm trying to recollect what
Yeah,
you
no,
said. but-
Okay.
I would, you know.
I also don't understand why the police, if it was 2.7 in 2011,
Yes.
why we're showing a merged of 2.8? Because there was not,
There was 120 that was budgeted somewhere else that belonged with the police. And we took the 120 out somewhere else.
Was, did they take,
But it doesn't belong with police personnel.
no, unless, did they take,
the problem.
like their traffic cops or,
Possibly. I
there has to be,
I don't recall what the category was that it was taken out of, but
It's a $120,000 increase, it's not a decrease. by the
Right.
way.
no, I know it's $120,000,
Oh, I thought you said-
no, I know it's $120,000 increase.
it's a minus savings.
Yeah, I know, that's
Yeah.
why I'm
No,
saying.
no,
that's why
no,
it's clear,
the
yeah.
point is, what the budget is what the budget is, unless there's something from the village that was added to that they put under police expenses. The police expenses as the town and town village combined should be the same exact thing if it's merged, because there's only one police department.
Yes.
So the 120 has to either reflect something else
It reflects
from
something
village
else that was taken.
personnel.
It reflects
that
something
was-
that
That
was
came
taken
from
out and
buildings
put back.
and grounds. I have a note, came from buildings and grounds. That was, do you remember the,
Oh,
remember?
yeah.
This is
That-
because there's
the
a
cost-
hundred and.
Fuel and electricity or something that was in
That's
buildings
right,
and grounds
there's
rather than.
money
the
that's in
back
buildings and
rent,
grounds that should have been in the
The
police
rent of the
department.
building, the taxes on the building, and the other information came to,
Well, basically, okay, we'll have to go back and look at the building and grounds numbers again, because this needs to be changed unless the number is taken from someplace else.
Yes, it was
Well,
taken
no,
from building and
the
grounds.
question comes up, okay, I guess the question is, in Blues and Chris's, did they take the $120,000?
Out of.
Is
out
that
of-
part of that $520,000
Yeah.
savings?
I think
No, they
not, I
wouldn't-
think not, but I don't know for sure. I wasn't part of that meeting.
No. That wouldn't have been part of the savings, it's just a matter of whether it's being
Well, it could
reflected.
have, has to be. It has to be because, quote unquote, it has to be because they identified, excuse me, it has to be because they have identified that DPW should be, combined was, 2699, and they took $520,000 out of it, and I presume they took the
They were
$120,000.
supposed to.
I just have to ask them, they have took the $120,000 out. You see where I am?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find building and grounds to see
Yeah.
what number they have. for
But if
building
it
and
was
grounds.
but if it was taken out of there, then it needs to be put back somewhere because it's an actual
I know, that's why
cost.
I'm looking to see
Yeah,
if
no,
it's taken out.
that's what we're saying. It belongs to the police, because the police.
At
use
least
it.
conceptually, because it deals with their
Right.
building and where
Okay,
they.
it went into buildings and grounds, that's
But
what.
I don't see
But
building,
if you added 120,000 to the police, you should have taken that 120,000.
See, here's all the lines that they took.
yeah, no, I understand
Yeah.
that, but do you see buildings and grounds on this sheet?
Because I don't see 120.
I don't see a building and grounds line.
No.
No, they wouldn't have.
They've all been merged
They
into
merged, they all
DPW.
took them
Well,
out, put this one down here, they put them all here.
Where's DPW though? I don't see DPW in here.
It's
It's
the,
the very last thing with an asterisk
before the,
on it,
before the
right
purple
down
bar.
Oh,
it's the
DPW
last
all the way
one.
down at the
Yeah.
bottom?
Yep,
Right.
Okay.
And then it got the asterisk that gives you the.
and that came out of your meeting with Blue and Chris
Okay, I
and
see
Sally.
that, so they put everything together. Okay, so we have to find out if, all savings minus DPW, savings to the DPW merger. Okay, so we have to sit and look and understand what they did with,
Yeah, it's just that I
Because-
assumed.
if they,
Yeah,
if this is
so
not,
that's,
if
that's,
this is,
that's the question.
if this is not the, if this is this police building?
You know, the police stuff, according to what you had, what you researched, Susan, was $94,721.
Yeah, that's it.
That you added into the police budget for this
Mhm.
year,
Yeah, I
to
know,
cover those items.
but that's why, but,
Dave, I just sent you the
but then
HR
again,
report.
but just
I
remember,
just sent you the
these are
HR
2011
final
numbers.
report.
No, I understand
So
that.
they shouldn't be reflected in here.
No, right, but what we're saying,
It shouldn't be reflected in here because
No,
these
no.
are 2011 actual numbers.
Okay,
And
2011.
these are
yeah,
2011 actual, and in 2011, the cost of the building,
Was not in
was-
2,800,000.
I don't even know if they had moved in there yet, have they in 2011? But it does
But-
not, it wasn't
But
reflected
it
in their
wasn't
cost.
reflected in,
Right.
it wasn't reflected.
Right, so I don't think that's what, I don't think
So
that's what
that
that is.
that $120,000 can't be that.
I don't think it is, that's why I don't
Why
think
do
it
you,
is.
why do you say it wasn't reflected?
Because
Because in
it wasn't,
2011, they didn't.
in
they were
2011,
charging Building and grounds.
Yeah,
The 2011 actual was up by $120,000, right? In 2011, the buildings and grounds were being charged to build
do buildings and grounds.
the
Yes.
buildings and grounds.
which was considered DPW by the town.
Yes, I understand that, that's not the
But
problem, it
the-
wasn't
but
put
the-
in the police budget.
But it
So that
wasn't in-
120,000 that you just added, that's added into the police budget, probably is not the building, because that was, should be in buildings and grounds, because you're doing actual numbers.
No, it's
Um,
it's the electrical, it's the lighting.
no,
excuse me,
no.
excuse me, he's right, Susan, because this is the if merge figure.
No,
2,800,000.
it does, no, it's
Yeah,
still,
2,800,000.
no,
No, 2,800,000 would be if it's merged, if it was merged, it would have the
no,
$140,000.
no, it wouldn't.
Okay,
Because what the merged budget is if you have two building department, okay, if you have
Right.
okay, you have the legislative, you had 5 board members, 5
Right,
board
I know.
members. Now we only have 5, so you merged, you dropped out 5. When we merged 2011 police and 2011 village and town, there's nothing to merge because there's only one
yes, I
department.
understand.
So
that.
you wouldn't change that number or touch that number.
But when you
Okay.
merged the DPW, when you merged a whole series of lines into
Right.
DPW, I imagine buildings and grounds are one of those codes. I don't have them right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But A16 something something is probably where the 120 was, and it was put together as part of DPW.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is the 120 in the police, that the police has been increased to 120.
Yeah.
Let me double check with Chris and them when they did it, if they moved the
okay.
cost of the police out, move the building out, put it in. And if they did, we'll move it back, because that's not the appropriate place for it right now.
Not right now, right.
Right.
Okay, all right. So, we'll try to put this together. I will try to take a shot at, and get it out to you before the next meeting, which we'll schedule.
So we should set up a meeting with you, with Chris, so you could just
Yeah,
feel
fine,
comfortable about
yeah,
some of this
Yeah,
stuff.
okay, yeah.
Maybe at some point Nancy and I can meet again, just to sort of review some of these numbers or
Okay,
whatever.
you wanna have the meeting next week, you wanna have it 2 weeks?
No, I think we should keep going, because,
All right, fine, next week.
The village
Yeah,
hall is
even if it's
closed.
a short
because
meeting, we
oh,
What?
it's next Thursday a holiday,
It's
Monday a
Veterans
holiday?
Day, so the building is closed. We could meet somewhere else if you want.
Oh, is town hall closed too?
I don't know the answer to that.
No, you can meet here. Just because the building's closed, you get the key.
Get
Well, if
the
it's a
email.
holiday, maybe we don't wanna meet.
Oh, well, he was talking about the building being
Yeah,
closed, I'm
no.
saying, the building being closed doesn't make a difference. 'cause
I
you-
will be in town and could meet, but maybe some people are.
Whatever.
No, let's wait to make it 11, to make it the 18th.
Okay.
Because we're not meeting next week.
What?
We're not
No,
meeting next week.
we'll have a meeting on the
I
18th.
didn't
I'll
realize
find
it was
out.
Veterans Day. I hope my daughter's not working so I can go visit her.
We'll give you a break. We'll give you a
Oh.
holiday off. Isn't that
Thank
nice?
you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You
And,
get the
and
point.
give us a chance to get all that stuff out, the meeting
Yeah.
with the thing and
Mhm.
comparison. And what I'll try to do is to take all this data
It is me, I wouldn't give my-
and try to come up with guess of what it would look like 2014 or 2015, okay? Separate town,
Yeah.
separate village, combined together. Because that's
Why
what
do you need separate town and village?
What we're gonna,
well, if you don't merge, this is what your budgets are gonna be, this is what you, and that's,
Oh, you wanna show. I get
yeah,
it,
yeah, but that's
Okay.
really what you wanna end up trying to give to people, okay? And saying, listen, if we merge, okay, this is what we project the savings to be.
but you know, I still, let me go back for a second, because why couldn't we take the 2011 budget that we worked on, right? With, if the town, these are the actual numbers per se, and if we combined, this is the assumptions we made that we believe the money we would save. Now, why couldn't we take this budget and now say if we were to create a brand new model of government, what would that government look like based on 2011 costs? Cause then you would-
But the problem,
Yeah,
the problem,
yeah, as a
the problem,
percentage of saving.
the
Yeah.
problem we've got with that, all right, is that there are some extenuating circumstances, okay, and in relationship to the 2011 budget, actions in the town. And what I think we wanted, I want to try to, for example, this situation of attorney fees and that type of situation, and engineering fees and so forth, and said, well, I'm gonna make a bold assumption, okay? I make a bold assumption that if in fact the Burge does not take some of those efficiencies that we have identified as probable, you probably go forward with anyway. All right? I would think that you would do that, all right? And if in fact, and there are some extenuating expenses in the town, attorney fees being one and a couple others, that you don't really wanna, get back and try to explain that per se, all right? Because all you do is those people, the naysayers to this thing will tear you apart with the figures.
Yes, yeah.
Well, the naysayers will pull you apart, okay?
But you're
So basically, you know, you say that this is and that's why essentially you come down with a definite savings. There's no question in my mind, having gone through this exercise, okay, that there are significant savings that can be identified between the town continuing to operate separately from the village or combined operation. There are significant savings, there's significant revenue increases, and that but we don't want to be in a position to try to I'd like to be more conservative how much those savings are.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say this is a concern, so that I don't get torn apart by the naysayers to say, well, I don't say, how can you say $179,000 for this and $179,000, and it really it's a question. Except for a few places, they're just smaller savings.
Well, that's
You
prob-
have to take a conservative approach because otherwise it looks like you're playing with the figures.
And overselling.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
sell
you
it.
oversell. I don't want to oversell this.
Well,
thing.
that's partly why I wanna
That's what I'm saying.
try to get a handle on these numbers so that I can go to somebody from the outside of our community who's an expert in fiscal policy that's respected by everybody up in New York State and say, here's the village budget, here's the town budget, here's what we did, here are our assumptions, now what do you think? And get feedback, because I believe that that will help validate, either
That's
point,
right.
point out,
Absolutely.
point out either our shortcomings,
Which we
or,
can then correct.
and then we can correct, and then validate, and so we can say, look, don't take our advice, or our belief, we had this vetted by, we wanted, this to be vetted by a, fiscal guru that everybody seems to respect, that says, yes, these numbers, make sense. And then, at that point, nobody can say that we're just playing with numbers to get to a resolution that we
Exactly.
might,
Preconceived, yeah.
preconceived.
Dave?
That's why I'm anxious to start to get these numbers firmed up so that I can get, the Fiscal Policy Institute to start working on it.
Dave, I'm looking at this note on here from the Personnel Committee, where it says the decrease in pension would be according to the decrease in personnel, et cetera, et cetera. I have two comments I have to make about that.
What?
It really depends upon the personnel.
What?
Hmm?
I'm sorry,
No, what I'm
Can
saying.
you hear your lead up, so can you talk a little louder?
Yes.
please, make believe you're in a police meeting.
I'm very tired. I'm looking at the thing from this note from the Personnel Committee about the pension.
What page is that?
Let's get back up. Not only can I hear things,
Oh, give us some figures. Where are we talking about?
A 90158.
Hey,
Okay, everything.
hey,
And
10,
A
Right here,
90158.
police, fire, retirement.
And the other
A
one
nine-
is the, Police and fire retirement.
Right,
And the other one is the retirement for the regular employees. I don't know what the number
state
is.
retirement, it's right above it.
Yeah, okay, state retirement. Now, it says take percent reduction from HR subcommittee. So if they reduce A or whatever, okay, you can't do it as a blanket, because not everybody gets the pension. So if you're reducing personnel, I just want to bring this out, you're reducing personnel, and you're getting rid of the low-end personnel with the part-time personnel, because they're the ones that have to go first,
yes,
you can't take that percentage, because they're
Uh-huh.
not getting it, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I point out that this is something that is controlled, that Susan has no control over. It's controlled by the state, and as Susan just said, she got a 30% increase in the pension this year. You said it went up to $1 million, Susan. That's a 30% increase from when we did this.
Wow.
Okay, so again, you can't say, take a percentage and reduce it. I mean, the percentage, for example, based upon,
Well, that's why I said, that what we have to do is determine, we have to go through the HR recommendation.
yeah,
We have to sit and look and say, what were our assumptions based on, when we
Well,
move
that- I
forward to
just
the
wanted to point that
when we
out
move to
here.
the 2015, budget, and we start to say, well, we want these people, and whatever, then we go back and then we do,
exactly.
then we
Yeah.
calculate
Right.
And you
retirement
really,
and
really
medical
have to
benefits, yes,
tie it to an individual.
exactly.
In order to
Right.
calculate
What I
that.
have,
Right,
the one I
yes,
gave
yeah.
you is
You're
it
right.
ties every benefit to the specific
Right.
individual.
Yeah.
And that's at the rate,
But even
Right.
in that case, we don't have to tie it to specific individuals.
well, you
I
can
mean,
if you want.
No, but I'm not, no, I'm saying.
You
in
don't
other
have to
words-
name the person.
No, I'm just saying, like, in other words, if we know right now, we have, again, I'll go back to the finance, that you've got 3 financial people in the village, you've got 2 in the town, that's 5.
Mhm.
Each 5 of those people right now get benefits and pay into retirement.
Mhm.
But once we redefine what we want the financial department of this new government to look like,
Mhm.
maybe it's only 3 people, but they're 3 high-paid people, or it's, and then at that point, we go back and we determine, okay, if it's 3 people, then it's 3 medical benefits, what kind of salary we're looking at, then what kind of social security and state retirement's gonna be, and we'll calculate the numbers off of the assumptions we make on
Yeah,
how the
right,
departments,
exactly.
are created, the kind of salaries we're looking at, and what we think this, cost of this government's gonna be.
for example, I guess,
That's the only way.
yeah, I guess the situation is pointed out for is the tentative budget, and I realize this is 2 years after the 2011 actuals, but the state retirement 91,080, okay, is projected to be 324 next year, 324K.
Mm.
However, the police projected is 610.
Now,
What?
police alone,
Police alone, 610.
Remember I told you the police went up
Yeah,
extraordinary?
That's
yeah,
almost-
I'm
that's
saying
almost
that could
double.
be because the police right now
Well,
is
this
a
is,
higher pension
well, this is
contribution than
20,
the
this is
regular.
2011.
This is 2011, all I'm saying,
No, 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 I'm saying 2011, you have 2012, and now you have 2013. So Dave, what was it in
2013 is 610.
Yeah, what was it in 2012?
328. Police was
2012.
328.
In twenty,
I don't know what it is.
2011?
It was, the proposal was 447, and I don't understand.
2011.
212 actual, I don't know.
Police was two hundred and
No,
forty
no,
thousand.
no, no.
Yeah, see, I can't tell. Okay, yes, no, 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 no. Excuse
My
me,
line
it's
says police
447,
fire.
605.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
that's right.
That's
No,
the fund,
no.
it's police, fire.
No, in
fire. There is no
police and fire and police retirement in
You get
two,
a state stipend.
Ira,
Yeah.
police and fire retirement in 2012 was 447,605
Total?
for 2012,
Or is that the
for just
fireman's?
police
That
and
was
fire.
the,
Just
that was the
police and fire.
budget, that
That's
was the
police.
budget,
That's
That's
the
just
police.
police.
Yeah.
budget.
Four
Right, but-
forty-seven.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it was 328 the previous year.
Uh-huh.
340 the previous year.
I got 328.
And it's projected to be 610 next year.
And it's projected at 610 next year.
Yeah.
That's a 200,000.
Okay,
That's a-
that's
that's a
why,
huge
that's,
That's
wobble.
that's why I was trying to look at
That's a
it.
$150,000 increase.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Mhm.
And,
Having nothing to do with negotiations with the department, having nothing to do with the town
It's the
board
state.
actions,
Nothing.
just the
It's
state,
the
state,
State just says, this is what you
Jumps
pay,
on it.
because what happens is the state runs short. So when the state runs short, they say, oh, we need a higher contribution, and they just say, you're gonna make up our shortage, because we had to pay more people than we thought we were gonna have to
So
pay,
what they-
you make up the shortage.
What
That's the
they,
way the
what they
fund works.
budgeted for, okay, which the state gave them the number, and said, this is the budget.
Mhm.
Then we just now got the bill. I have to find $150,000 in this year's budget that was not allocated to police retirement that I now have to go find.
And you were told by the state what to allocate in the past, or
Mhm.
the town was.
Mhm. The town was
So they've
told,
just simply pulled the rug out from
so
under.
the town was
Yeah,
told
that's
at the
what they
beginning of the year to allocate, 450,000, and then they get a bill for 600,000. And you've gotta find that 150 somewhere in your budget.
It's called contingency.
But you try not to spend
You're confused as hell as
contingency.
everybody else when you talk
Ah, but you don't wanna build them up too much.
No, no, but I'm just saying, you try not to spend your contingency,
Yeah, I
then you
know.
have the money for the next year.
Yeah,
For the next increase.
No, then you don't have to increase next year.
No,
What
Oh,
does that
yes,
mean?
yes,
Does
yes.
it-
Cope with the increased
Curiosity,
fee.
does that mean
Put
you had
on
to
you.
change this or what?
The reason why, yeah, what happened was when the town on Thursday night went over more budget, I have to add $12,000.
Well, that's okay, yeah.
Which I already did. These
Yeah.
numbers reflect the
Yeah,
12,000 that was
I
added.
was wondering
That's-
about the.
That's added into the CWAS.
Does that mean that you, because you have to find $150,000, it was not in the budget, you're gonna have to reduce this
No,
unexpended
no, it's
balance?
the 150 is for last year. It's for 2012. I have to do it in 2012.
So if you have to find $150,000, okay, the only place you find it really is unexpended,
No, because
balance.
we have contingency that I haven't touched.
well, contingency. Well, okay, if you didn't spend the contingency,
haven't
you'd have
touched
more
it.
money left over.
I haven't touched contingency. I will not touch it unless I'm forced to touch it. Plus, I've also been,
All right,
every expenditure that anybody's made has had to go through me. So people have been spending less money. When the supervisor has to sign off on every expense, it's amazing how all of a sudden certain expenses never cross your desk.
yeah, okay, yeah, I found that out too. But basically, you're gonna have a big surplus in this year.
Possibly not, because there were certain things that were not, for example, the town board, prior town board did not plan for the wetlands lawsuit that they knew they were gonna end up doing. So that was like $25,000 that was not planned for or put into the budget. There's other expenses that we've
But
incurred.
how much, when they finally finalized and you made your report, what was the unexpended,
I
what
have
was the
to,
leftover funds?
I have to confirm that number.
Okay. In area, you don't want to even say what the area of what it was?
I think it's about $1.5 million.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We're finished, and that's the thing, we'll have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Okey-doke.
Thank you.